Hi guys, I'm Ed Clarke and today I'm going to be building my brand new pedalboard for the Fight or Flight tour. If you want to pre-order the album, I'll put a link in the description below. Before I get into it, please make sure you've liked the video and you're subscribed. It doesn't take very long and it really does make a huge difference to the success of the channel. So essentially, for the last, I don't know how many months, I've been using a pedal train Novo 18 as well as a pedal train Metro 16 together to get all the effects that I want and need. For the shows I've been doing, my idea for this pedal board is to culminate them all into one. So I'm not running two power cables. I'm not having to run patch cables between the two boards to set up every time. And hopefully, I don't know if this is going to work, I'm going to also have the tuner for my acoustic on this pedal board so that that's all integrated as well. So just one pedal board that goes on and that's it. So for this, I have the pedal train Novo 24. I really like the pedal train Novos. So I thought just getting a slightly larger one would probably be the way to go. Looks a bit like this. As you can see, I've already put the patch bay in there. I'm using a Rockboard patch bay. I've never used patch bay before. The idea, for those of you who don't know, is that the power goes in there. I can wire up any cables in and out on these here. I can use MIDI, but I'm not. And it basically means all the ins and outs go in one place rather than them being spread all over the board. And it also means you're not wearing down the connections on your pedals. Now, because this is a Rockboard patch bay and a pedal train pedal board, they don't actually fit together entirely right. There is an adapter bracket you can get, but I thought stuff that. So I managed to wedge it in between these rails. It almost fits. Won't fit this end, but in the middle, I was able to pry these two apart enough to slide it in, but it really is rammed in there. And then I've just got some sheets of aluminium. I think it's 1.8 mil thick aluminium that I've just bolted to the faceplate of the patch bay with these 3 bolts each end, and then put some self-tapping screws in to attach it to the board, and it's pretty solid. So I've done that before the video because I wasn't sure how easy it was going to be. As it turns out, it wasn't too bad. So there's a few things I'm doing differently on this board than what I've done before. The first one is I'm doing this a little bit more proper. So I've got, instead of Velcro, I've got dual lock by 3M, because all the research I've done, most people seem to say that is a lot better than Velcro. It's a lot cleaner and it grips a lot better. I've also got goo remover to get rid of the residue from the old Velcro off my pedals. And I've got rubbing alcohol to clean off the surfaces before I stick the dual lock to it. Because one of the problems I've actually had a lot is the Velcro grips, but the Velcro stays on the board and you can pull the pedal off and it just comes away from the Velcro, which obviously is no good whatsoever. So hopefully that's going to combat that. I have some ideas as to how I'm going to make this neater than the last pedal board, because if you've ever seen the underside of my current pedal boards, it is a complete mess of audio cables and power cables. Now, the obvious way to fix this would be to have custom length power cables and patch cables. I'm not doing that for 2 reasons. The first one is I don't trust my ability to put them together properly. I've had bad experiences in the past. And the second one is I chop and change my pedal board so much, I'd end up constantly having to buy new supplies to make the custom length cables. So I'm going to stick with mostly EBS, a few Tortec cables, and then Chock's own power cables. This is a good time to mention that I am using Chock's entirely for the power on this board. Up until now, I've used the kettle lead going into a Voodoo Labs power Pedal Power Plus 2, and that was then daisy chained through another kettle lead into the Chock's DC7. Now, I had some issues with the Voodoo Labs. It is a very good supply, but the way I had it set up, I found the cables kept actually coming out. So sometimes I'd go step on a pedal and it wouldn't have any power. Fine on true bypass, you get away with it, but if it's buffered, everything goes quiet. I've now got the Chock's 8 expander, which means I can use the Chock's DC7, and that has a daisy chain into the expander, and that means that everything is powered off Chock's alone. Cool, I think that's what I wanted to say ahead of the build. So the first job I've got to do is, of course, strip the old board. Just realised that what I forgot to say is my idea for cleaning up the underside of the pedal board is to run the power underneath and the patch cables, so the audio, on top. Now that obviously won't look as clean as the pedal boards you'll see where you can't see any cables at all. It all goes straight onto the board. But my thinking is it will be a lot easier to organise. I've got some of these little cable tidies that are self-adhesive, so they stick to the metal. And because I'm not going to be covering the whole thing in Velcro. I'm going to be using little patches of the dual lock. There should be a lot of space on the metal to put these cable tidies. So it may not look as clean, but I think it might be better in the long run to keep everything nice and tidy. But yeah, let's see what happens when I actually come to build it. It may not work. Okay, so sit rep. I have got my old boards completely stripped down and got all the Velcro and gooey gunk off the back of the pedals. I've also drilled a bunch of holes in the new pedal boards to put the pedal risers. God, it's alarmingly heavy already. Pedal risers here just to keep that flat, which means that I can reach the switches on the pedals at the top row a lot easier. And then also got the power all installed there. I was cutting it a little bit fine, as you can see, with getting that. Or can you see? Light's not very good. Getting that cable in there, but just about managed it. So now it is time to start laying out the pedals. Okay, so I think this is going to be the layout. I will do a run through when it's all assembled. Obviously, nothing is actually currently stuck down. So what I'm going to do now is take all the pedals off, wipe down the surface with rubbing alcohol to make sure there's no grease or anything that might cause me some problems. And then, yeah, get sticking. Okay, so all the pedals are attached now. I've got all the power run, and what I'm actually noticing, as you can probably see, is all the power cables are located up here and a little bit down here, but all of this space is actually clear. So I am going to run the audio cables underneath where necessary, because I think it's not going to get that messy, despite what I originally thought. I've done things slightly differently this time, in that I have run all the power cables and tidied it all up before I even run the audio cables. Usually I get all the cables run and then tidy it up, which is why it probably ends up like such a bird's nest. Will I regret that? Well, I'm about to find out, because I'm about to do the audio cables. Alrighty, so it's now the next day. Got the whole board together. I had a couple of issues with, I think, dodgy patch cables. It was very intermittent and I couldn't really get down to exactly what it was, but I switched them out just in case, and everything seems to be working now. And then the only other difference is that I've got the Mua Trelicopter here now instead of the Tone City Tremble. Tone City Tremble sounded fantastic, but the issue I was having was it's a very choppy tremolo, whereas I wanted something a lot more subtle, and it wasn't really designed for that, whereas the Trelicopter is doing it beautifully. So, I'll talk you through what everything does, but more importantly, kind of the method for this board. It's slightly weird in that I've got the wah on the left-hand side, and this little 2-button looper actually goes before the big one here. The reason being is my solo boost is obviously at the end of the chain, but I want to be able to press that and quickly get to the wah. If this was over here and the wah was over here, that would be a lot more tap dancery. And then also I have solos that use the octaver and I have solos that use buttons on the HX Stomp. So it just keeps all that stuff nice and close together. And essentially, because I stand stage right, it means this is the most accessible bit. I've got my gain boost, my octaver, my solo boost, my wah, all ready to go. So that's kind of my logic. It's how I had it laid out when it was two separate boards. Obviously it's changed slightly, but you can loosely think of this line here as the division between the two boards that have now been assembled into one. Anyway, what have we actually got here? Well, usually I'll be using the wireless going straight into the Shure here, but I've got a cable plugged in on the back there, just because obviously no need to have a wireless when I'm just doing a demo like this. So it comes out of this, into the wah, out of the wah, into this two button looper. I won't demonstrate the wah, just have to use my hand, and that's going to be weird. First thing in the looper is the octaver, and then I've got the clon, well, Halcyon Gold, which I've labeled clon, for a bit of a gain boost. So I'll just put the gain boost on so I can demonstrate the octaver. Here is the clean sound. I'll start with the gain because the octaver sounds a bit weird on its own. Here it is with the Halcyon Gold. Just a lovely thickening kind of gain, not super distorted, but I actually never play purely clean tones. I always have something on, so that is about as clean as I'll ever get, and then I'll use the volume to roll it down to get it as clean as I want it. Now the octaver is a sub and up mini over here. Sounds like this. Beautifully beefy. Out of here, we then go into the Quartermaster by Gig Rig. First thing in the chain is the Protein. Now, I really love the green side. I'm not so keen on the blue side. If you want to see my honest review of this pedal, I'll put a link in the description below. But I've got it there really because I've been doing some bluesier jam stuff with various people, and I was finding that the Riverside was a little bit too hot for that. So I wanted to have something that was a little bit more tame. If I want a little bit more, I have got the blue side as well. As I say, if you want to hear all my thoughts on that pedal, go check out the video in the link below. Now, my main overdrive is the Riverside, kind of set up to do a nice Marshall type thing. And most of the time, I'll be stacking that with the Halcyon Gold from Origin Effects. Just really smooth and beefy. Oh, I've used that word a lot. Yeah, just really love that sound. Next up is the tremolo, which is new. So let's go on to a cleaner sound, something like this. I just find on cleaner sounds, it just adds a little bit of movement, makes things a little bit more interesting. We then have this lovely aluminium guard, which stops me accidentally pressing the HX Stomp, because the HX Stomp does a few utility things for me, including pitch shifting for songs that are in E-flat tuning. So I don't want to accidentally turn that off. But it's got a few things set up. On this current patch, which is just no pitch shifting, we have a shimmer. That's used on a new song called Insane. I've also got a script phaser. Which I use in a few places when I want a slightly wobbly sound. And then I've got my filter, which is like a slight mid boost and a cut on the highs and lows. It's something I came up with years ago when playing in one guitar bands. It allows you to go from like a weaker sound to a beefier sound, even though you've only got one guitarist. Whereas in other bands, you might just have one guitarist drop out and come back in. Obviously, I can't do that, being the only guitarist in the band. So if I put the overdrive on. So before big drops in songs, that can really adds something. Up here, I've got the Ampero switch by Hoptone. This essentially is just an up and down through the patches of this. So there's a few. One has a gate on it for when doing really high gain stuff and has a harmony. There's one song, one of the bonus tracks off the new album. I do a harmony in the solo. Not the kind of thing that I usually do, but it was just such a cool moment on the recording. I wanted to be able to do it live. If I go the other direction, I have what's labeled Guilty Love, which was the first song we did that was in E-flat tuning. So it just allows me to drop it. This is probably going to sound quite weird because you'll probably hear the guitar acoustically as well, but I'll just demonstrate it quickly. And then I've got the really hard tremolo, which happens in Guilty Love. Yeah, that's enough of that because in the room it sounds terrible. At high volumes, you obviously can't hear the guitar acoustically, so it's fine, but quietly at this volume, it's quite unpleasant, to be honest. After that, we go into the delay, which is the Halo, the Andy Timmons signature Keeley pedal. I've got two different delay sounds set up. One is kind of your generic delay sound. Just a single note delay, nothing fancy. And for one song, I have a kind of dotted rhythm going on. It's a song called Sink or Swim off the new album. A lot more intense sounding. So it generates this lovely big wash, which just, yeah, it was a really cool thing that we did in the studio on that song. Our producer Tarrant made a really cool sound in the production on that one, and I just wanted to replicate it live. After that, we have the solo button. Now, I've tried a few different solo boosts, and I had a bit of a brainwave while doing this board to use a compressor. So when I press this solo boost, it turns this compressor on and this delay up here. It just means that I don't have to turn the delay and the solo on. I can just have a little bit more echo on it just by pressing that one button. My logic for using the SP compressor is I found it to be very transparent, so it shouldn't change the tone too much, but I have a control over how much compression I want. I can have the blend all the way down and it will just be a volume boost, or I can add more in. I've got low, medium and high settings, so if I'm just feeling that the notes aren't sustaining enough, or I just want it to feel nicer under the fingers, I've got that there. Usually I put a compressor first in the chains. This is a new experience for me, but yeah, I just thought I'd give it a go. Maybe it'll get changed back to a traditional clean boost pedal, but who knows. Sounds like this. So obviously a lot louder, but if I turn off the SP for a moment, there's just that really subtle delay coming from the flashback, which just adds that little bit more wash to it for single note stuff. Okay, after that, we go up to the final two pedals, which are not any loops. These are these two. The first one is the Hoff Mini, just a really good programmable reverb that I've got set to, I want to say, a plate. So without it first. Got a little bit of reverb coming from the HX Stomp, and then with it. Just again, for the ballads, all the slow stuff, I've got something washy there. I've said beef and wash a lot in this video, haven't I? And then finally, we've got the Infinite Sample Sustainer. Absolute revolutionary when I found this pedal. It was able to do something that I have been doing through trickery with infinite reverbs in... Back then, it was actually the Helix Effects, but I was then doing it on the HX Stomp. This allows you to infinitely sustain notes, similar to the EHX Freeze. What I find special about this is it does it in a much more natural way. It sounds a lot less synth-like. It kind of like adds reverb to it, so it sounds a lot more like a pad going on underneath. So I use this a few times, but most notably before a song called What's Your Name Again off the first album. So what I'll do is I'll put the delay and reverb on, swell in a chord. Only drawback of it is the double tap to stop, but I've got used to kind of doing that before the song comes in, so it's not too much of a problem. But yeah, I really love the sound of that pedal. I use it basically at any opportunity that I can. Okay, so finally, one of the new things about this board is having the patch bay on the back, which I'll put a picture up on screen now of. I've got the output going to the amp, and of course there is no input because I'm usually using the wireless, but then I've also got an acoustic in and out. That just routes to this tuner here, just a poly tune, just for my acoustic. The idea of this board was to simplify things for setup, so while it is big, it is a lot more convenient for setup. There's one power in and out. I don't have to have my foot switch for my amp to turn the trem on because there's trem on the board. I don't have to set up a separate thing for the acoustic because that's all on this board as well. I just plonk this one board down and plug my stuff in, and that's it. So the hope is it'll be a lot more convenient to use. So there you have it. The Fight or Flight tour starts in a few weeks. So I've got a few rehearsals to get to know the board, iron out any kinks before we hit the road. If you want to come see a show but you haven't got tickets yet, I'll put a link to the tour down in the description below. If you like this video, please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed with the bell icon ticked to be notified of new videos. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you next time.